Are y'all ready for this? 3 heads, 3 different methods, 1 drawing session. Let's get into it. So in this video, I'll be drawing different heads using different methods. I'll be testing each method, and at the very end of this video, I'll be ranking the different methods. So stay tuned for that. And some of these methods are new methods to me. So yeah, let's get right into it. The first method I'm drawing here is the Rilley abstraction method. This method helps simplify the process of drawing different features on the face, and it does so by breaking down the facial structures into shapes, a lot simpler shapes. So it starts off with an oval shape, then it breaks off the face into different subsections, and it does so by using vertical and horizontal lines. So it's almost like at the end of this method, what you create is like a grid, almost like a wire frame. So I like to think of it as like you have a globe in front of you, and on the globe you have longitude, latitude lines, and then you place the different continents and countries on that grid. It's the same thing here, the same thinking process here, except for instead of continents, you have different facial features. So yeah, and when I was drawing this method, the lines were going every which direction, It kind of reminded me of like Spider-Man, right? You have like this web kind of shape on the face. So yeah. And so all the lines kind of, what I noticed when I was drawing this, the lines radiated from from the nose, the eyes, the mouth, and it just kind of wrapped around the head. So yeah. And when I was drawing these using these different methods, I kind of viewed these methods as guidelines more so than strictly following the rules. I kind of just picked and chose whichever lines that I liked from the method, because at the end of the day, these methods are more like tools, right? They're supposed to help you draw the different features. So don't feel discouraged if you don't get all the lines correctly. Just keep trying, keep practicing, and in the end, you'll eventually get it, and this will help you improve your portraits immensely. So yeah, I've actually never drawn this method before, so it was definitely an interesting adventure. Then here I start drawing the hair. Now the hair is not really part of the Rilley method at all, but I was just sketching the hair because I love to sketch hair. I love shading it. So yeah. And then I'm using here a mechanical pencil for sketching. Throughout the entire video, I alternate between this mechanical pencil and a sketching pencil. So I use HB, and then I think I use like 6B for the darker parts of the shadows. So I love just alternating between those. Then for this Rilley method, I was thinking about whether I could use this on whenever I'm drawing animals. So I don't really draw animals that often, which can be really challenging for me sometimes. So I want to try to apply it to drawing animals because animals have very similar facial features to humans. They have like eyes, nose, except their features are different sizes, right? Now, this method is obviously designed for human faces, but it would be fun to see if it could be adjusted and used in drawing animals as well. And I was reading about this method. Apparently it was created back in the 1950s, which I thought was cool, and it was created by Robert Beverly Hale and Richard Rilley. So 2 different people created this method, and it is an established method of drawing different features. So yeah. And here I am just adding different shading, adding shadows to the areas where it's darker, and then also lightening up any of the areas. I think this is pretty close to the end of this method, then I think what I do is I move on to the next method, which is the Loomis method. Now, the Loomis method, I've actually drawn it before, so it's not new to me. And with the Loomis method, you start off with a sphere, right? So you think of the head or the skull as a sphere. Then with the sphere, a sphere is not really like a head shape. So what you do with it is you kind of slice either sides of the sphere to get more of a head shape object. And then based on this object that you have in front of you, you add horizontal lines for the eyes, the nose, the mouth, and then one vertical line for the alignment of the nose and the mouth. Then for the jaw, you kind of stretch out the sphere to a point, to like a chin point, and that will create your jaw structure. So yeah, for the Loomis method, it is really nice for like quick drawings or like doodles that you want to get the shapes quickly onto the paper. This method is really great for that. And especially like if you're drawing on smaller paper where you don't have space for that many lines. Like with the Rilley method, I feel like you really need to have a large paper or drawing like a life-size portrait because there's a lot of different lines there. And in here, I'm just chipping away at the different features. And then also I think later on I do add a little bit of shading. So now I want to talk about erasing the guidelines. So initially, when I was trying to erase all the guidelines from each of these different methods, I was using a rubber eraser, that white one right there. But then what happened was that it smudged the graphite all over the paper. And it also erased the features that I did want, like the eyes, the nose, the mouth. So it was a complete disaster. So what I ended up doing is I used a kneaded eraser instead. Now, actually, I have never used this, not never, that's not the right word. I haven't used it in a long time, the kneaded eraser, so I didn't even know where I kept mine. So I had to literally rummage through my closet, through all my different clothes, through the corner of my closet to try to find where I kept it. But eventually I did find it, and that time I spent doing that was well worth it because the kneaded eraser helps soften the lines without completely erasing the marks, which is really great because I just want the lines to lighten up and I don't want them to be completely erased. So yeah, I will be keeping this kneaded eraser closely to me and not letting it go because I just love that tool. Anyways, I was reading about the Loomis method. Apparently it was created back in the 1940s by a guy named Andrew Loomis, and he was an American illustrator. So he was helping people rethink the way that they see different shapes. And that's what really art is all about. It's all about observation. So all of these different methods help you kind of revisualize different shapes and different patterns on the face. So they're just different tools. And a lot of people think that art is only talent, but that's not the case. It really is your skill of observation and how you see the world. I cannot speak today, apparently. Yeah. And then here I'm moving to the third and final method of today's video, which is the Asaro method. So in the Asaro method, you want to think about sculptures. It's a sculptural approach. It really helps with shading the face. So in this method, you think of the head as a 3D object. And you start off with an oval shape, a nice and easy shape. And then from that shape, you kind of outline each feature using basic geometric shapes. So what you want to think about is rugged lines. I like to think of like mountains, or what I like to also imagine in my mind is that I have like a boulder in front of me, or like a rock, and I'm just drawing the different planes on it. So it's really rugged lines. This is very different from the way I personally think of faces. I like to think of a face with soft, gentle waves or curves. So this was a different challenge for me. And then also, when I was doing this, when I was drawing using this method, I was imagining the face as having different planes. So each plane had like a different value in shading. For example, some of them was more in the shadow, so they'll be shaded in with a darker tone, and then some of the other planes on the face have more light, so they don't have that much shading. So I also think that this method would be very, very good for animation to help with understanding the different lighting. So because I'm drawing on like a smaller paper, I didn't draw that many planes, but I feel like if you're drawing on a bigger piece of paper, you can add more planes and really soften up the face. I like this method. I really enjoyed it. I feel like for me, it was easier to visualize the head as planes. I love geometric shapes. And I was reading about this method. It was created by Asaro. So yeah, really cool. I hope that eventually one day that I could create my own drawing head method and like name it after myself. Just take bits and pieces of like whatever I'm learning here and combine it into like one method. But yeah, so now I guess I can talk about different ranking of different methods that I did today. So if I had to choose one that I like the best, it for me is the Loomis method. Now I might be a little biased because I've drawn with this method many times, so I'm very comfortable with it, but I just like the simplicity of it and how you can get a pretty good shape really quickly. Then the second one for me is the Asaro method. I like that one a lot. I feel like it really improved my shading, especially like with this one that I'm drawing here. And then my least favorite one is the Rilley method. That one for me was difficult to visualize all those different lines. But I don't know, maybe I'll go back to it and try it again and try to see if I can get a better understanding of it. But yeah, so comment down below, what is your favorite method? Or is there a method that I have not tried here that you guys really like? Because I would love to hear that as well. So yeah, here I was thinking, I think I'm pretty close to finishing this up, but I was thinking in the background of adding maybe some acrylic paint to add some color. But in the end, I just decided to leave it as is. So yeah, I think this is pretty close to the end of the video. I think here I just add the shading on this character with my sketching pencil, but then I think I just show a close-up of each of the drawings. But yeah, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in my next one. Bye.